Welcome to our NTA series. In today's video, we're going to look at the net tangible asset requirement for AFSL holders. ASIC has released updated legislative instruments and has also updated its guidance in relation to Australian financial services licensees that provide financial services and products such as registered schemes, investor-directed portfolio services, corporate collective investment vehicles, and custody. Certain authorisations on an AFSL trigger the NTA requirement. The updated legislative instruments apply to licensees that hold authorisations in relation to registered schemes, investor-directed portfolio services, corporate collective investment vehicles, and custody. Before we look at ASIC's updated guidance, let's discuss what the NTA requirement is. Depending on the specific authorisations and business operations of the licensee, the NTA requirement which applies will be one of the following options. Option A, either the greater of $150,000 or 10% of average revenue, or for IDPSs, CCIVs and responsible entities, 0.5% of the average value of fund assets. Or option B, either the greater of $10 million or 10% of average revenue. The NTA requirement is tiered to accommodate smaller licensees or licensees that have lower levels of business activity under their AFSL. If you don't know which option applies to your business, we strongly recommend you obtain advice on this issue. Both NTA options refer to the licensee's average revenue. This means licensees need to have a clear understanding of what should be included in the calculation of their revenue. When calculating revenue, it is important to note the definition in each of the updated legislative instruments. Let's look at Instrument 2023/648, which applies to custodial providers. In this instrument, the definition of revenue includes the licensee's revenue and any amount paid or payable, to the extent that it's not the licensee's own revenue, for the performance of obligations imposed on the licensee to provide custodial services, even if those obligations are performed by another entity. That second point is important to be aware of, as the legislative instrument and ASIC's Regulatory Guide 166 specifically state that the revenue of the licensee will include any revenue earned by authorised representatives in respect of amounts paid for performing custody services on behalf of the licensee. Once you've determined the NTA requirement which applies to your business, how do you know when you need to have those funds accessible? ASIC's position is that as soon as an authorisation which triggers the NTA requirement is granted to a licensee, the NTA requirement takes effect. In submissions to consultation paper 367, there were some proposals that the NTA requirement should not take effect if the licensee is dormant or is not currently utilising the authorisations which trigger the requirement. ASIC did not agree with this. This is an important consideration. It means that any licensee which is subject to the NTA requirement by way of the authorisations included on its AFSL must meet the NTA requirement from the date the authorisations take effect. For many licensees and those looking to apply for or acquire an AFSL, this will mean future planning to ensure the appropriate cash reserves are held. Speaking of cash reserves, licensees subject to the NTA requirement must hold at least 50% of the NTA required in cash or cash equivalents, with a minimum of $150,000. Depending on the specific authorisations, some or all of the required NTA must also be held in liquid assets. So what next? If the NTA requirement applies to you, or you think it might, we encourage you to review your NTA calculations, including the proportion which is held in cash or cash equivalents. For licensees with authorisations to operate registered schemes, IDPSs, CCIVs and provide custodial services who have not yet considered the NTA requirement because the licensee is dormant or for some other reason, it's time to do so. ASIC will not look favourably on licensees to which the NTA requirement applies but have failed to meet this obligation. If you have any questions about today's video, head on over to our website where you can talk to a member of our team via our live chat service. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on the next video